Hey everybody, Tom here with Hidden Beats, and today we are talking with the lovely Sykamore. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. So, for those who are new to you as an artist and your music, can you give a little intro about yourself and kind of what you do?
My elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Sure. My name is Sykamore. I am a Nashville-based country artist, but I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and been down in Nashville almost 5 years. And I have an EP out called Self Medicine and an EP called California King, and I'm about to put out a full-length album called Pinto on August 12th.
Nice. So this is our third time getting to chat with you, almost exactly a year to the date at every point. It seems like we're a little bit past that for this one, but
Wow.
so let's talk about Pinto. What's the story behind Pinto?
The story behind it is basically I moved to Nashville, and about, I'd say, a couple months after I'd moved to Nashville, I put out Self Medicine, which was an EP that I'd been working on for probably 4 years before that. And then I had briefly just sort of kind of a crisis of what I was going to do next. I wasn't sure what I knew. I wanted to make another project, but I didn't want it to be a continuation of the last work that I had just put out. I wanted it to be a departure. And so I sort of struggled with subject matter and what I wanted to do. And ultimately I had a publishing deal at the time, and that's how I was able to come to the States. So I kind of just kept going to writes and kind of feeling my way through. And eventually through somebody, I heard the story of this old car, the Ford Pinto, and how it kind of has this reputation for being really hazardous. And there's this sort of point of pressure in the front of the car. It was this fundamental flaw in the design of the car, where if this pressure point was even kind of tapped, like it got in like a fender bender with somebody else, the whole car would explode. And so like it ended up having this reputation for being very, very dangerous and hazardous and combustible. And for whatever reason, I was like, to myself, I thought that's sort of like what, young love is like at first. Is it's very touchy and very, very intoxicating and very combustible and just, very explosive. And I kept sort of drawing these comparisons to this weird old car from the 70s. And suddenly a lot of the visuals started coming to me for, what a video could look like. And, even the soundscape for what this song could sound like. And so I wrote this song called Pinto, and it inspired me so much that that ended up being sort of the centerpiece for the next project, was sort of this song and this sort of cheesy synthesizers from the 80s built into this sort of country storytelling setting. And thankfully it was just sort of this lightning rod moment, this song that sort of became the focal point for the whole record. And I ended up writing the whole record kind of around it. And, that was probably back, in like 2018 or so. And then later that year, I got a record deal and explained the idea to my record label. And we went to the studio and cut it in 2019. And it was supposed to come out in 2020. And then a lot of things happened in 2020. I'm not sure what. And then, so there was a lot of kind of postponing it. And then now it's sort of been slowly rolled out over a year or so. And we're about to put out the last two songs. And one of them is the title track, Pinto. And then it'll be out, and it'll be no longer mine. It'll be part of the world.
Mm-hmm. So how has your process changed when you come putting together like an album and music since your first releases?
Like the pandemic changed so much. I think obviously like we do so much more like stuff on Zoom and everything now. Like we all got kind of a crash course in Zoom writing, Zoom communication, like just virtual communication in general. And I think we all probably thought we were pretty good at it. And then the pandemic like added another layer of it to that. But I mean, just the way the album rolled out was really interesting for me, because I'd never done it quite like this before, where, we put out an EP called California King, which is 5 songs that are all on this record. And it was really just to give people a taste of what was to come and to kind of show the kind of my sound from all angles, because it's a little bit 3-dimensional, and so there's different sort of sides to it. And so that was the first thing. And then we put out some singles, and it was really nice to be able to give each song, you know, a bit of a platform on its own instead of all being pushed out as one body of work. We were all almost able to give each song kind of its own moment with everybody, which was really cool and not something you always get to do. So not how I pictured rolling out the album, but definitely kind of a cool surprise for sure.
Mm-hmm. And you got to work with, I think it was Michael Knox on this one.
Yeah, Michael Knox produced, as well as Bobby Campbell, who is my vocal producer. And Michael Knox is known for, he's done all of Jason Aldean's albums. And so he's a very successful guy, very successful producer. And it was really cool, you know, working with him because I still feel like such a newbie in the music industry and in how Nashville works and everything. And he's a kind of a veteran. And so it was really cool to come together and kind of show up and honestly, you know, be myself as an artist and be passionate about things I wanted to be on the record, but also be really willing to learn from him and you know, see his generosity as, you know, a teacher and just as somebody who's, you know, had a lot of success in the music industry. He could kind of bring his special kind of twist to it, and together we could kind of come together and make this really kind of fresh sounding record. So it was cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, I've heard Michael Knox before, so it must have been fun to experience just kind of his knowledge base and everything.
Yeah, for sure it was.
So how was working on music and everything during COVID and balancing social media and trying to develop new things?
It was tough at first, I think, just because I still remember like OG pandemic when no one knew what to do. So everybody was just doing Instagram lives. And for me, I was putting out an EP kind of right at the height of everything. And, you know, there was a question of whether or not we should even put it out. And I just hadn't put music out in so long. I really just pushed and we ended up putting it out. And it was, you know, kind of weird. I feel like it was going to be weird anyway, just because music, it's evolving so much as a medium that like even every couple of years there's stuff that you maybe didn't do last time that you're doing this time to promote an album. So I mean, this was especially weird, but yeah, like we did a lot of stuff via Zoom, a lot of stuff via phone. I had to pre-tape a lot of stuff. I got like pretty well versed in how to like self-tape because everybody was at home. You know, you become a little more independent just by necessity. And yeah, I think even just writing songs, like a lot of songwriter friends I knew got really used to just writing on Zoom. Some people like didn't come back to writing in person. They just like would send you a Zoom link and that's how you would write. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody got sort of a rhythm with it, and eventually things were able to not go back to normal, but achieve some kind of normalcy, right? And so I think everybody just came out of it a lot more resourceful and resilient, and yeah, hopefully we all just have a few more skills under our belt now.
Yeah. And with everything opening back up, what's your thoughts of how the music scene is going to change and evolve now?
You know, I was just talking to my manager about this. If you read the kind of stats that are out there now about how people consumed music during the pandemic, it's really different from beginning to end. Like a lot of people, I think it had a lot to do with people just being in their homes with a lot more downtime than usual. And a lot of like millennials being home with their parents, showing them how to use streaming services and be like, you know, if you want to make a playlist of any song you want, you can. And so like, it's been really interesting to just see how much of the landscape of the music industry has changed and how much, you know, the chains are not the chains, but like the gatekeepers are gone. You know, it's just like you can do whatever you want as an artist because you're that much more just channeled directly to your fans. Like there isn't really a filter that you're having to go through. It's just like I feel like everybody kind of through, you know, obviously the rise of TikTok and stuff, like musicians have become a little more of the like everyman, and they're talking directly to their fans and there's no middleman. And I think that's really changing even just how music is consumed, what people are listening to, what genre. Like genre doesn't seem to matter anymore. It's just all about a personal musical experience, which I think is really exciting because as a creative, it just means that like I can make the music that I like and it will find the people that are going to like it too. And we can just kind of have that synergy together. So I think it's a really exciting time to be a musician.
Mhm. It's funny you mentioned teaching parents how to use things. I just last week got my mom used to the idea of Netflix.
Yeah,
She she had no idea what to do with any of that stuff. It was funny.
it's fun to watch like minds get blown when you kind of like I remember teaching my mom about, I think I set her up on Spotify or on Apple Music or something, and I was just kind of like, yeah, like you can listen to anything. Like if you're in the car and you plug your phone in, you can just hook up your Apple Music to it. And she tried it one day and she came home and she was like, it was like being in a movie. I could just like I could listen to it, whatever. It was like a soundtrack to my life. And like it was, and I'm like, yes, mom, like that's how it is. That's like it's a pretty crazy experience. It's a crazy world.
Mm-hmm. So with everything opening up, there's a lot of live shows happening, and you have a trip to the Boots and Hearts Festival coming up. How
Yeah,
exciting is that?
I'm very excited because a lot of these shows I think we're about to kind of come out of it now, but a lot of them were like booked in 2020 and then just didn't end up happening. And Boots, like, I think this was original booking was for me in 2020. And then it ended up rolling over from 2021. And so it's been a long time coming. And I played Boots once before, years back, and it was really fun. And so I'm ecstatic to be this time coming up from Nashville instead of coming from Calgary, and really just hoping to, I guess, beat the old version of my performance and like see how much I've changed and hopefully how much I've improved. So I think it'll be a great time.
Mm-hmm. And this year, actually, I'm getting up to cover the festival myself, so I'll be able to catch your set live for sure.
Oh, awesome. That's so great. We'll get to actually meet in person. See,
Mm-hmm.
we're graduating. We're taking steps.
Yeah, just a couple of quicker steps now.
Yeah. Well, that's super fun. That'll be a great day.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a busy one, and there's the way they have it set up. There's a lot of new music that's going to come out, and a lot of people should have some fun with that.
Yeah. So you're gonna have a like a tent? Like, are you gonna be in the media area kind of thing?
Yeah, I'll have a spot in the media area, and I have an Airbnb booked so I can edit at night and do my thing there.
That's perfect. That'll be so. I hope the weather is good. It's never been bad when I've been there, but you never know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. One day all of a sudden things might turn rainy,
Yeah.
but I'm used to working in that too, to be honest. So,
Are you? Yeah.
oh yeah.
That's good.
Are you bringing some of your new songs, I'm assuming, to the festival?
Yeah, I think we're gonna play like mostly stuff off of Pinto. We've Shania is gonna be at Boots, not the same day as me, but we actually do a really fun cover of "Holding On to Love" by Shania, and I still think we're gonna do it because she's not gonna be there that day, so it's fine. But yeah, I think most of it's gonna be new stuff, and it's been really fun to play it. Like we started playing out those songs like last summer because we played Country Thunder in Wisconsin and we were in Michigan last summer, and so it was fun to kind of test drive those songs on real live audiences, and they seem to get a good reaction. So I think we're going to do mostly the new stuff.
Nice. That'll be good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it takes to stand out now with after COVID? There's been so much flood of music and there's so much out there. What do you think it takes to be noticed?
I think it's more of a game of just figuring out what makes you different. Like what's authentic to you that other people don't have. Like I think it's tempting to make it a game of copying somebody and doing it better, but I actually think it's better. It's well worth your time to figure out what it is about you that makes you just unique, and whether it's because I think some people are afraid of what makes them different because they don't want to seem unfamiliar. But nowadays, I actually think it serves you better to just lean into the thing that makes you different, even if it's never been done before, or or if you think maybe it's not palatable. Like it's going to find its audience. Like I was saying before, it's like the power of just being able to put something on TikTok and putting it through an algorithm, and being able to find people that resonate with it. Nobody's looking for the next Bruno Mars, like we already have one, so it's like you got to figure out what makes you and be honest about it, like figure out what makes you different and hang on to it. And I think there's always something about authenticity that people just gravitate towards. And so I think you can get a little ways down the road by copying somebody else, but I ultimately think that's fruitless in the end, because the people that all go down in history are the people that were the first of their kind. So you may as well, dig in and be like, not a pale imitation of somebody else. Just be yourself.
Yeah. And have fun with it. Cause people see, like you said, authenticity. People see that.
Mm-hmm. So that's what I try to tell. If anybody ever asks me, like, how do you, like, in such a saturated market, how do you stand out? I don't think it's about looking at what nobody's doing and then doing that. It's just look at what you want to do, what comes naturally to you, and what's passionate about what you do, and just stay. There's your lane, and just stay in it.
Mm-hmm. So I have a few fun questions I'd like to ask everybody. I get more insight to you as a person and kind of your thoughts on things.
Let's do it.
First one I have is, what is something on your go-to playlist that somebody wouldn't expect that you listen to?
Lately, it's been a lot of, maybe it's because of Elvis, but like a ton of like 50s and 60s vintage rock. So like Beach Boys, Paul Anka, Elvis, even like Mamas and Papas, all that stuff. I've been sort of immersed in vintage music lately. It's been really great.
I love the Beach Boys. They're one of my favorites. They're on my playlist all the time.
Yeah. So fun.
What is one thing that you think should be asked more in interviews that's not asked enough?
I don't know. I mean,
something that you might want to hear if you're listening to someone's interview.
I actually do like the question about musical taste, because, people are always like, they say who your influence is. And that question I always feel like implies a little more like, who do you sound like? Mm-hmm. And I'm always more interested to hear in like, what are you listening to? Because it gives a lot of insight as to what's coming out. Like, it's always like, what are you taking in? And then what's coming out? Like, I always want to get inside somebody's brain of like, you wrote this song. So what are you listening to lately? And it's just like always a really interesting question. So you kind of already did it. So
and that's one of my favorite questions, because you always hear something different from everyone. And sometimes you hear like a gem that you forgot about. And it's like, wow, I need to listen to that again.
Yeah. I mean, I love answering that question because I'm a big, like, voracious consumer of music. And it's sort of, I was that long before I was a musician. I listened to everything. And so it will change for me. It's very seasonal. Like, I'll go through like this phase that I'm in right now. Eventually it'll maybe go back to country, or it'll go into a little more like American songbook, like Joni Mitchell and Bob Dylan. And so like, there's always like a brand new answer every couple months.
Yeah. And I think that's the golden thing about music, is that it's great that can change.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. So what is one piece of advice that you were given coming up in music that you've held on to tightly?
I think sort of what I touched on before a little bit. I was really lucky early in my career to work with a guy who worked very closely with Jan Arden, like this Canadian treasure. And, he would tell a lot of stories about, how she was able to break through. And it always ultimately was because she was different and because she was herself. And so that sort of became like his mantra, was like, like, don't try to be cool. Like, you're cool just as you are, like, you don't have to, cool isn't something you achieve. It's something that happens when you just are comfortable with yourself and comfortable with what you contribute to your craft. And so ultimately it ends up working for you, because I think it helps people. Like, no one's going to remember the 5 people that looked like each other. Like, they're going to remember the one that stood out. Right. So yeah, I think mostly what I said before is just like, I would tell somebody to just lean into what makes them different. Don't be afraid to, even if your heroes aren't doing something, if you want to do it, figure out a way to do it, and it'll find, like, it's all about finding that niche and finding those people that are going to buy the tickets, listen to the music, support you, and you can create that relationship.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that one too. And my last one for you, and this one's kind of more deeper. Why do you keep doing music? Well, what is your motivation to keep going forward?
That is a good question. Whenever I have to ask, I periodically do ask myself that question, at certain crossroads in your life. The answer that I always come up with for me is like, I'm going to do it until I feel like I have nothing left to give to it, as long as I feel like there's still something I can contribute. And obviously, if I'm still feeling it and want to do it, I'm going to keep doing it. And that sort of ties into, like, I've always had this rule where it was like, because there have definitely been moments in my career where I've wanted to quit. And, it's never been because I don't want to do music. It's always been kind of a fear-based thing, or like a fear of failure. And I've never let myself quit on those grounds, because I always told myself, like, you still have opportunities. As long as you still have opportunities coming in to contribute, you need to chase them. Like, the only really good reason to quit anything is because you just have desire to do something else. And so as long as I keep desiring to create, I think I'll just keep doing music. It just feels natural and the doors keep opening. And so I'm like, I'm just going to keep doing it until the doors stop opening, basically.
Mm-hmm. No, and that passion is great to have. If it still feels good, then why not keep doing it?
Yeah, but I think it's a good question to ask yourself as an artist, maybe once a year or something, because it's so easy to be blinded and to all of a sudden be operating from an ego or from, kind of an unhealthy point of view. I think it always needs to be from a place where you want to produce, you want to contribute to this sort of zeitgeist, this sort of well that we're all drinking from. You want to put your 2 cents in, and it's like, I think that's what I always try to strive to be as far as coming into the music industry. I'm always trying to contribute and to give instead of prove somebody wrong, or, whatever any of those bad motivations can be.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great point for sure. And I was told that you have a fairly busy schedule today, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. Well, that's not what the emails I got said. I need to keep this under 25 minutes, apparently.
I mean, we're steady today. It's not crazy. It's steady, but it's not crazy.
Well, I mean, that is everything I wrote down anyways. And this was a great time to actually get to meet you face to face ish.
Yeah.
And then have a good conversation.
For sure.
Is there any kind of final points that you want to leave to listeners / I guess listeners is viewers, same thing really?
Yeah, probably just that Pinto comes out August 12th, and you can actually pre-order it right now on like any of my socials. And yeah, just keep an eye out for it. And that's pretty much it. But I'll see you at Boots for sure.
I will be there. I'm kind of hard to miss, so you'll definitely notice me.
You gonna wear your Jays cap?
I will have at least one of them with me. Yeah.
It's a good call. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Not a problem, and looking forward to seeing you live.
For sure. Take care.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.